We are this morning going to be guided through our program by Mr. Cha, who is from the Daewonsa Temple. I know he's been working with the temple for many, many years, and the beauty that you see here in the temple and in the people who are members of the congregation is very much of the Mr. Cha and others we have to thank for that, because he has been working, I think, 20 years or more. Right? And when Abbot Key first came, you already were here. So Mr. Cha has been here longer than the temple and longer than Abbot Key. Unfortunately, Abbot Key had to be called away for an emergency meeting. But Mr. Cha, who I might mention, is also, he's not a monk, he's in the insurance business, I think. So if any of you need any insurance, he has been president of the congregation and a community leader. We're very grateful to him, not only to be here to welcome us, but also to guide us through the morning program. And I think Mr. Cha will then introduce Venerable Jinwoo, who will lead us in first a few moments of perhaps refuge ceremony. So, Mr. Cha, thank you very much for hosting us.
Good morning. Good morning, Reverend, professors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and students. On behalf of the Korean Buddhist Daewonsa Temple, Shanghai members, I welcome very much for your coming this evening. As just introduced, I was the member of this temple. As soon as Reverend Daewon is the ever of this temple, came to Hawaii, which means that 20 years. Reverend Daewon came from Korea to Hawaii 20 years ago to teach Buddhism to the Korean community, because language barrier of the Koreans at the time was very hard to understand Buddhism in different culture, different temples. But after he came to Hawaii, members of the temple helped him, and we made such a beautiful temple. And we prepared this small booklet saying that about all of the structures here. This is Haju space of Daewonjeon, which means that the great hero hall, which we have served every Sunday. And we have some different structures here. So this booklet tells about it. And also, 1982, when the pagoda was constructed, the pagoda was dedicated to the peace of the world. And also, this temple is any person is welcome and free to come here. So just a brief introduction about the Daewonsa Temple. And before I introduce Reverend Jinwoo, we have a bathroom, one up there, and the other structure downstairs, several bathrooms. So if you need, you can go there. And also, our members prepared for coffees and pastry, so please have it during the break time. At this time, I'd like to introduce Reverend Jinwoo, who will pay homage to the three treasures.
Welcome everybody, and I apologize for your incomplete. And maybe later we complete our culture center, then we have a big room and the chairs, so we have a hall. Anyway, I should save the time because first speaker should leave for the airport at 10, so I just shortly homage to Buddha just in a minute. Thank you. Just You can sit and just hold the hand, then I'll test in Korean version. 부처님께 기합니다. 거룩한 가르침에
Thank you, Reverend Jimon. I'm first to speak.
Even after death. The reverence for the dead is a manifestation of the strength of the cardinal virtues that bind the family together, alive or dead. Usually when people have dreams, like I have dreams from time to time, when I'm having some difficulties in life or some uncertainties, I see somebody in my dream, someone who had a relationship with me while they were living, and then wake up in the morning and say, okay, I met this person and I feel good, and something good happened. I don't know if you have had the same experience. Buddhist belief in samsara, the transmigration of the soul, provides us with a feeling of continuity in that death is part of life, and that life is a flower that buds out of the deathless trunk called eternity. Shamanistic exorcism and purging is a metaphysical communication between humans and spirits, so that the living communicate to better the kukua with the spiritual world. Just like Confucianism, it promotes social aspects of human relationships, but the primary target of socialization in shamanism is the spirits of the dead, who are sought in an active communication and social engagement with the living through the intricate system of ritual performance of invocation, purging, and quenching. Secondly, their compatibility shows in various aspects of the Korean performing culture, since it has been inspired and groomed in the same breath. This is what Christianity, the newcomer that landed on Korean Peninsula, needs to learn and respect somewhat, its unique religious arrangement. But in most cases, it comes in as a total denial of whatever has existed before. The time immemorial faith systems and their cultural manifestations. Christianity, too, teaches good value and provides worthy direction, but in a very dogmatic way, at the expense of other longer-rooted faith systems. I'm just generalizing it, so this is just my general opinion as an average Korean person. Thirdly, all three teach us to be a good citizen and wholesome human being, without insisting that one is better or more potent than the others. Confucianism, with the fear of transgressing or shaming the good standing of the ancestors and the future of the posterity. Buddhism, with the concept of continuity of the soul and karma. Shamanism, with its sacred symbology that teaches us that this world is not peopled merely by Homo sapiens, but the spirits live on as an invisible part of the natural existence. And it has to be respected, just like human beings. In this sense, at a time our planet is seriously being destroyed by the blind faith in and pursuit of technology, the shamanistic reverence for the spirits in nature might be just where the solution lies, in a sense. Shamanism stands in a complementary position from Confucianism. While Confucianism shows reverence for the unending filial piety, loyalty, or chastity, even after death through code of behavior and ritual of reverence, shamanistic ritual performance invokes, entertains, purges, and calms the spirits. In so doing, it provokes song, music, provides song, music, and dance. On the other hand, Buddhism provides a comprehensive, larger structure that helps the human being discover a center in which one finds the meaning of life in connection with death in the cycle of samsara. Again, this is just as a lay person, the average Korean living in the 20th century, toward the end of the 20th century, this is just my views, and what I'm saying reflects the view and perspective of the average Korean person. The Song of Shimcheong is an ancient story that serves as a good example of how these three systems of value and faith are interconnected to move the plot forward and define the motives and actions of the characters within the story. It is frequently sung in pansori style, an oral narrative story singing that utilizes intricate rhythmic cycles, melodic modes, and detailed vocal depiction of the meaning of the narrative. Through the birth, death, and resurrection of Shimcheong, the story evolves along the chain of karma that continues. Shimcheong is a fairy banished from heaven for a minor misdemeanor. She conceived as an answer to the prayer of blind man Shim and his wife Bakshi, who prayed for a son to carry on their family name according to the Confucian lineage system. Shimcheong's mother died in childbirth, leaving the newborn Shimcheong in care of her blind husband. Heaven helps, and blind man Shim raises her by begging, and the baby grows to be a beautiful filial girl, helped by the kindly ladies of the village who take turns to nurse her. At 7, she starts caring for her father, and at 15, her good name reaches far and wide. And one day, she's invited to visit a noble lady who wants to make friends with a beautiful person like Shimcheong. The father, waiting at home for her return, feels impatient and decides to look for her himself. He stumbles out into the drifting snow, calling her, and slips into the gushing stream, and is about to be drowned. As the Buddhist monk on his way to Daewonsa temple hears him and saves him. Pitying the blind man, the monk relates to him how there is a way for those that can afford to raise 300 bags of sacrificial rice and pray to Lord Buddha to regain the lost sight. Excited about the vision, the blind man Shim commits himself to it. But no sooner the monk leaves than he regrets, for they do not even have 300 handfuls of rice. Shimcheong returns and hears what happened, and instead of getting angry, she comforts her father, saying, where there is a filial devotion, heaven will surely reveal a way. From that day on, setting up the altar in their backyard, she prays to the spirits of heaven, earth, stars, and all the guardian spirits and Buddhas for the promised rice, even if it takes her life. Her prayer was answered, and one day a group of merchant sailors entered the village, advertising that they would pay any amount for a 15-year-old virgin to be sacrificed at sea to quench the wrath of the dragon king of the underwater. The rice is sent to temple, and Shimcheong follows the sailors to her death, leaving behind her wailing father and grieving villagers. After many months' journey, they arrived in the middle of the ocean where the sea was stormy, and having performed a proper ritual for the guardian spirits of the 4 great oceans, the sailors urged her to jump. Making a last vow at her father toward the direction of her home, her last ritual of filial piety. She jumps, and the sea calms instantaneously. Heaven helps those who help themselves. Shimcheong's filial piety moved heaven, and she was resurrected to be sent back to the surface in the shape of a lotus bud to enjoy the rest of her life as empress. The sailors, returning home, arrived at the scene of Cheong's tragic death and feel remorse and pity for the filial death of the girl, and they perform a ritual in order to conjure and appease her sad spirit. The drum beats, food is scattered, and in their vision, blurred by streaming tears, they spot the mysterious lotus bud. The captain takes it to the recently widowed emperor, for he knows the emperor has a knack for exotic flowers and plants from all over the world. One night, the emperor was strolling the garden, and the flower bloomed before his eyes, revealing the beautiful Shimcheong. The royal wedding takes place, followed by peace and prosperity in the country. Though Empress Shim has everything in the world, she misses her father. The emperor, hoping to make her happy, decreed that all the blind men in the country be invited to the 100 days banquet at the palace in order to help find her father. Blind man Shim too heads for the capital, and after much hardship, he arrives on the last day of the banquet. Hearing his name, they bring him into the inner court, and blind man Shim thinks they're about to punish him for the tragic death of his daughter. Summoned before the empress, he makes a tearful confession of his sin. The empress runs down the aisle and holds the father in her arms. Blind man Shim, in his desperate desire to see his resurrected daughter, regains his sight. And all the other blind men people of the country regain their sight. Now, I will now, since there is some time, may I sing for you a little bit of the narrative from the beginning to the part where Park Shi is the mother of Shimcheon, one who gives birth to Shimcheon and dies. And it's a small segment, so if you don't mind, I will sing this for you. I haven't had too much time for practicing because I got ill last year, and then I had to write my dissertation, so my voice is rather cracky. So please forgive me, it doesn't quite resonate the way it should. Speaking of the story, blind man Shim's wife Park Shi praised the Lord Buddha, right? And all the guardian spirits of heaven and earth, mountains and waters. She invoked all of them for a son. One day she had a dream in which the spirit of the moon slides into her bosom. A beautiful fairy emerges, and bowing, she tells her who she is, why she is banished to the human world. She pleads to be accepted as Park Shi's daughter. 곽씨 호의 그날부터 심타로 모인 재물 왠갓 공을 다 드릴제 명산대차 영신당과 타탈시주, 인등시주, 창호시주, 열왕 불고, 칠성 불고, 난 불고, 가지가지 다들이 없는 탈이 무너지며 힘든 남긴 꺾거리야 각자 사오를 조파이랴 한국 물건은지라 서긴 공허고 꽃가영 농터니 하나는 소녀 하나 옥교로 나열지 머리요 아관이요 몸에난 혼사기랑 개화가지 손에 들고 우인전 배하고 첫해와 앉는 거동 우연하 탈지어시지 사사그 도둑란들 남해 언주이 안어 시작 호농차 소환어 excellent. Okay, one more thing. This is a slight variation. Okay. Oh, oh, say that please. Oh, oh, this whole phrase, it really, nobody knows what really is. Maybe somebody do. 강보에 싼 그리도 소리게 맡겨두고 죽어도 굴관지고 정입고 사무주 채를 거쳐잡고 아이고 마누라 날 버리고 어디 가오 나무 같은 산척척 도망박은 다리가 서서히 가면 일치 울며 그 저녁이 서서히 가리 장수 이 정부 날과 한그 가사이다 세녀는 그대로 나가며 번호자 노환호 우리가리 넘자 노환호 영원소 상복꾼들 이래 한 말 들어보소 자네가 죽어도 이기리요 내가 죽어도 이기리로다 넘찬하면 한철원신 곽실부인 쌍먹에도 떠나셨네 넘찬하면 I think I have about, I love it. So do you have any comments or questions? I'm here. Yes. Yes.
After they take the body, it's called there,
Mm.
take the body, and what comes next? Is there also similar chanting for the funeral?
Yes, taking the body to the burial site. And my understanding and my knowledge in that is limited as it is. But they have I think there's a chanting and ritual for every stage of funeral and burial. So then after the burial, then there is also the ritual of, the 평포제, which is leveling the ground. So all that kind of draws the communal spirit, the communal, the spirit, so that the whole village kind of, partake in that. But there are rituals at every stage.
Are they Buddhist or Confucian or shamanistic or all mixed?
I would say all myths. As this story goes, I mean, when the lady, the Pakshi, Mrs. Blind Shim, when she prays, she would pray to any deity, Buddha and, the mountain gods and, bird goddesses and, so it really is all mixed. Again, that's just kind of as a layman, the view that yes.
How old is this pansori?
The pansori, the known history of pansori goes back to 300 years.
How about this particular story?
this particular story, I would say about that long. But then we really don't know. There is no known the origin or the literature that says, okay, Pansori started by this person, here. It's all just kind of, nebulous. But we estimate that about 300 years. And then interestingly, this particular narrative, Song of Jinjeong, is also incorporated in shamanistic rituals along the east coastal region, around Gangneung. Like if you go there, like in June, I think it's June, they have a very big kind of like a festival ritual thing in Gangneung area, and you can see this done by a shaman.
Why is some Pansori almost unintelligible to, I think, a lot of even Koreans? And other Pansori you can understand a lot.
Yes, I would say that first of all, the language of Pansori is 19th century Pansori. And since then on, the 20th century Korean language that we use today is really quite changed. The sentence structure is going through some change with, this opens up a whole new discussion, but, ever since the Korea started its kind of a modernization through westernization, and all the American English, the English-based novels and poetry, they started getting translated in Korea, and so that kind of puts a lot of influence, I think, in the changing of the language. And so modern Korean would have difficulty. I mean, we would know how the storyline goes, but the nitty-gritty of the text would be hard to understand. Yeah. Yes.
What is the significance of the round burial mounds?
Oh, that's a difficult one. I don't know. Oh, yes. Actually, in my 40-something years of life, that popped up a few times, in people's discussions. But honestly, I don't know. But I'm going to Korea. Hey, 12 o'clock. I'll find out. I'll go to the mound.
When are you coming back?
July 25th. Yeah.
I'm wondering, Chitra, if you perform professionally?
I don't know, professionally, if this is what you call professionally, but I don't really, I am always kind of, one leg in academia and one leg in kind of performance, so I can't really say that I perform really professionally. I have not supported myself by Pansori singing yet. Any other questions? Yes.
Can you expand on the shaman's aspect of Korean culture?
Expand on it. In what way?
I'm unfamiliar with how it influences people primarily in sort of relationships to the spirits and the natural surroundings. Is the spirit inside the surrounding? Does it control the surrounding?
Yes, people believe that there is kind of like animistic attitude. That there is spirit in every natural, I think, the element. See?
In a stone and
Especially, like old tree in a village. You will notice very often that there's straw around. That means it's a sacred place. There's a spirit in it. And that's why I'm saying that maybe this might be too crazy at this point, but this can be further expanded to help the environmental protection in the future, because there really is spirit. And maybe there has to be some kind of, in-between line between technology and something like shamanism. Pardon?
spirit of the ancient tree, or the spirit is
Maybe, this is just my, speculation, but if the spirit, this is a very fascinating question, by the way. I'll also find that out, but if the spirit ever left the tree that it had been, residing for, for a long period of time. Maybe some kind of, bad, bad thing, some kind of defamation, or maybe it would be a bad sign.
In the reading that we had assigned for the class, one of the rituals that was described by a household was to place peppers at the base of the fence that was being constructed to drive out evil wood spirits that, because it was a present cut on an auspicious day. Is it the desecration of the tree that creates the good or bad spirit? I'm just very confused on this.
Maybe it would be more for, like in the village setting, something in the community. I would say maybe a community, or maybe, something happened to the tree that is relating to some, defamatory behavior of people. Yeah. Basically, I think, the basic principle is the reverence for the spirits that reside in the natural element. And probably if that is gone, people would know, people would know between the difference between, whether there is a reverence or not. Any other question? Yes.
I saw one of those trees one time, and it had dried fish hanging in there. Now, do you know the significance of what those fish were? Were they feeding the spirit or something like that?
Very interesting. Yeah, the Reverend yeah, and maybe, it's your kind of 정성, which means, your utmost, you're doing your utmost to show the reverence. So I guess in that, you can put maybe a bowl of rice or, a fish, money, things that are dear to us. It's something that you share with the spiritual world, then it has to be something dear to us. Why not? I love fish. Nothing wrong with it, I don't think. Yes.
There is a character in this Living shamanism, maybe on a woman and road class.
Yeah.
And Hanfree is originated from
Hanfree?
Hanfree.
Hanfree. Is there Hanfree?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Yes.
So there's this is more female oriented shamanism. What about Chinchon's mother? Does her spirit comes back and the further soul or something?
What about the Chinchon's mom?
She died so young.
Oh, she died, and well, later in the story, she becomes the one of the deities in the heaven, in heaven. But your question about whether the women have more, kind of a grief to be absolved. Well, that is a kind of, I think there is a trend, and to some extent, I think that is right. But then, I do not want to limit it to just the women, as a kind of a grief. Oppressed people. Yeah. Then again, see to what degree and what extent that kind of oppression is, to what the kind of oppression. Because I think in every society that we live in, there are oppressions. Rich people, although this is a democratic society, definitely we do get to. Family size and community size, yeah, there are different levels and different sizes, yes.
I'm afraid she might miss airplane, so.
Thank you very much. Have a good summer.
To my understand, she's very professional performance. Simpson's story is very famous. Next week is Father's Day here. And Simpson's daughter and father really, sacrifice relationship. And next speaker will be Roshi Robert Aitken. Roshi Aitken is the founder and spiritual director of the Diamond and Shama and American Zen Buddhist Practice Center, now located here in Palo Valley. He has trained an entire generation of Americans in Zen meditation and has been active in social reform along Buddhist lines. He is also founder of the Buddhist Peace Fellowship and author of numerous books on the application of Buddhist principles in daily life. His topic will be ways of death. Yes, a Zen Buddhist perspective. Please welcome Mr. Aitken.
Thank you.
Please come in and be seated to discuss some questions. Everyone is welcome. We'll bring some more questions. Please come in quiet.
Discussion here. I'm still lost in the beautiful presentation of Dr. Park. I feel very moved to be here in this beautiful temple. When I was a teacher of English as a second language at the university many years ago, one of my students from Okinawa wrote an essay about how we forget to look up at the sky. Let's not forget to look up at the ceiling. This is the Pure Land, and when we step outside, we can look up to the hills of Palolo and the sky, and there's the Pure Land too. Lecce made a wonderful, did a wonderful job cutting my talk on Zen Buddhist perspective, leaving me with another talk. So I hope that I won't duplicate too much duplicate too much the text that you have in the slide. Death is treated as a teaching in Zen Buddhism. It reveals and enriches the truths of impermanence, compassion, and interdependency. As a metaphor, it reveals the nature of step-by-step practice and of realization. And I go on to say that Zen teachers have used their own deaths as a teaching. For example, predicting their day of death a year in advance to the day. One teacher, Kanzan Kokushi, important in the early days of Rinzai Zen Buddhism in Japan, entrusted his teaching to a soul disciple and sat down, wrote his death poem, and passed away with a brush in his hand. Still another came down from his mountain for the first time in almost 30 years and said goodbye to all his supporters, all the political and military authorities included, and traveled around for a couple of months in this process, then returned to his temple. Next morning, took bath, put on his traveling clothes, sat down before his disciples, gave a closing talk, and passed away. In the Gateless Barrier, one of my translations and commentaries, I tell the story of how my teacher, Yamada Koban Roshi, asked a student, "What do you think of death?" And she replied, "Well, it's like when a bus stops before you, you just get on and go." That student was my wife. And she was also one of the developmental editors of my book. And she took her name out of the story. But her own death many years later made clear how deeply committed she was to the truth of her words. She had suffered a massive heart attack and was breathing heavily. The doctor came in and spoke to me about her living will, asking me if I still wanted not to have any extraordinary intervention. And I said no, that I indeed did not want any extraordinary intervention, that I wanted the process to happen naturally. And I spoke. I looked at her face. Her breathing became quieter, and the look of utmost determination came over her face. She pressed her lips together firmly and passed away. It seems that she could hear me speak, and she took my words supportively. The bus had come, and she took the appropriate action. She stepped aboard and sat down with Kanzan and so many other ancestors who died, showing the rest of us the way. Dogen Zenji places death among the countless acts of dana, or giving, that make up our daily work. When one learns well, he said, being born and dying are both giving. All productive labor is fundamentally giving, entrusting flowers to the wind, birds to the season, also must be meritorious acts of giving. In this passage, Dogen Zenji implies that death and birth too, in a different way, is more than relinquishment, even more than giving. It is entrusting. When we are practicing, when we are turning the Dharma wheel, all our acts are those of entrusting. At the Palolo Zen Center, we entrust our cat to keep rats from the compound, but we also entrust him to keep birds away. Entrusting makes the world go around. On the day of his death, Kanzan entrusted his work to his soul, Dharma heir. Death is also the entrusting of one's work to the world. In his dying thoughts, my friend and student John Simmons entrusted his work and his vision to the rest of us, his heirs. He wrote, "Ultimately, mortality has taken me by the hand and led me conceptions of separateness, of even isolation, will dissolve. That this coalescence of skandhas, skandhas are the sensations and perceptions that we experience, and also the world that we experience. The skandhas around this karmic vector will untangle this jhana resolving, never to be repeated again. That this karmic vector endlessly impels form after form to arise and dissolve from the ground of no form. Now, he was at this time dying of AIDS. Simmons visualized the skandhas coalesced around the karmic vector as a simile to the self. My simile would be the same skandhas occupying a niche that I have inherited from unknown progenitors and colleagues, most of them untraceable. I have modified my niche and enriched it in my own way. I entrust it to the world or someone else perhaps. Karmic vector is a term that evokes swirls in a river. Blood and the bonds are missing. Niche, on the other hand, evokes a cranny that is occupied by a body, giving the impression of two things: the being and its place. Incidentally, scientists find that niche is a useful term for the seat of a particular order of being or species in the planet. Poets similarly are aware of the niche, if not by the term. It is rather a Platonic notion, as in Wallace Stevens' anecdote of men by the thousand. The dream of the dress, the dress of a woman of Lhasa in its place is an invisible element of that place, made visible. In any case, as similes, karmic vector and niche have all the limitations of figures of speech. Such figures point to what Yamada Ko and Roshi called the karmic side. Ultimately, however, there is no karmic vector and no niche. Buddhadasa Bhikkhu asks, for what purpose must we know about dependent origination? And he replies, to be free from the wrong view that persons are born and that they exist because of karma. Buddhadasa seems to be saying that karma itself is a false notion. How can this be? Dependent origination is expressed in the formula, this happens because that happened. This is because that is. It would seem that this refers to karma, cause and effect. I think that Buddhadasa means to ask, if everything depends on everything else, where then is the original cause? Karma disappears, and we are left with a mystery. The mystery. Contentment with the mystery, taking pleasure in the mystery, deepening oneself in the mystery is certainly the pleasure of true religious practice, it seems to me. Without such a practice, perhaps we fall into despair. Here is Philip Larkin's despair in his poem, Aoban. I work all day and get half drunk at night, waking at more to soundless dark I stare. In time the curtain edges will grow light. Till then I see what's really always there. Unresting death. A whole day nearer now. Making all thought impossible, but how and where and when I shall myself die. Arid interrogation. Yet the dread of dying and of being dead flashes afresh to hold and horrify. The Harpsichord assures Larkin and the rest of us, Bodhisattvas live by prajnaparamita, that is, the fulfillment of wisdom. With no hindrance in the mind, no hindrance, therefore no fear. The word translated as fear is really terror. Larkin's terror, human terror. When shall we be free from birth and death? Hakuin Zenji asks. When shall we be free from our terror? Dogen Zenji's father died when he was 2 years old, and when he was 7, his mother died, and he recalled how watching the smoke from the funeral fire of his mother's funeral impressed him deeply and sorrowfully with the transience of life. Throughout his career of teaching, he linked this awareness of transiency with bodhicitta, the desire for realization, the desire for enlightenment, the imperative for realizing the Buddha. Bodhicitta is what brings us to the meditation hall for practice. Bodhicitta is what distinguishes Zen Buddhism from world religions generally. The pilgrim looks directly into the fact of death, into the fact of impermanence, and there finds the solace that others find in the notions of heaven and eternal life. What is that solace? How beautiful it is. Kobayashi Issa, grieving over the death of his baby daughter, wrote, "The dewdrop world is the dewdrop world, and yet, the dewdrop world, of course, is the world of transience. I know the truth of transiency," Issa is saying, "but when I'm faced with the pain of my little daughter's death, I search for the possibility that somehow it may not be so." This natural human unwillingness, inability really, to accept death is in fact a reluctance to acknowledge life. Compare the death poem of Bokke, who died in battle during the Meiji Restoration. Cuckoo, I too spit blood, my thoughts. You know, haiku poetry is very condensed. I'll read it again. Cuckoo, I too spit blood, my thoughts. It is said in Japan that the cuckoo, Hototokisu, when Hototokisu sings, its blood flows. Bokke is saying that his own song is the welling up of his blood, the welling up of his thoughts. This is a haiku for Yunmen, whose words, "Every day is a good day," are not those of Pollyanna. Bokke is living through the moments of his death, and his solace is his song that celebrates this interval of his life. and dies the Buddha's teaching. Anguish is everywhere, the Buddha said. The source of that anguish is clinging. What is clinging? What is the object of clinging? It is cherishing the notion of permanence for this old fellow. Standing here with bad lungs. It is cherishing the notion of independence from others. Clinging is the heart of my anguish and of human anguish. There is a release from this anguish, however, which Voltaire had found. This release comes with practice, the middle or eightfold path. From right views to right zazen. Zazen or meditation is, for example, counting the breaths, facing this point 1, this point 2, this point 3, the point of no magnitude. This is the marvelous void charged with brilliant light. The circular path leads round again from right zazen to right views, right thought, right speech, and the rest to form our practice in daily life. The Eightfold Path, however, does not directly address the grief that one experiences with letting go. My first inkling of the real nature of grief was something my Zen friend R.H. Blythe said to me one day. I love my sister-in-law much more than I did when she was alive. I thought to myself, how strange. Then many years later, Anne's mother died. We flew up to San Francisco for the funeral. She had lived in a large house in the Presidio district of San Francisco, all by herself after her husband died. The close relatives gathered on one side of the big living room. The coffin was there on the other side. We stood around enjoying, as the occasion would allow, our reunion with each other, but there was a little too much chatter. So Anne and I went and knelt by the coffin and quietly recited the Emme Biku Kanonjo, the 10-verse Guanyin Sutra of timeless life. In those moments, I felt her mother's presence far more intimately and vividly than I ever did when she was alive. This is, it seems to me, the nature of grief. Beyond tears, beyond self-blame, it is the experience of the person, the presence of the person, and it is very poignant. For me, kneeling by her coffin, it was the pure grace of my mother-in-law. One hears elderly people who have lost a spouse speak of my angel husband or my saintly wife. I have myself tended to dismiss these allusions as sentimental or even as denial. Now I understand their reality. After 37 years of marriage, I knew Anne's inadequacies as she knew mine, as any family member knows the dark side of a sibling, parent, or spouse. But when she died, all her shortcomings abruptly vanished into thin air, just as her body vanished. And shortcomings were her body, the physical barriers of her aspiration, just as my own neuroses and foibles get in my own way. I relate through flawed materials, and so does everyone else. With her death, however, Anne stands forth her dana, which she entrusted to me and to her relatives and friends by dying. The bereaved old folks whose words I had dismissed as sticky sentiment and denial realized in their own ways a perennial mystery, the gift by death of the rare singular person, and I know now that they spoke in genuine awe. Thus I take issue with Mark Anthony when he proclaimed that the evil that we do lives after us, while the good often lies compared with the wrong. Surely it's the other way around. A lot more stuff here, but schedule to stop in 15 minutes, so I thought I would invite questions. Mark.
I have a question.
Sure.
Did I understand you to say that in Zen Buddhism, there isn't a belief in heaven or hell?
Yes.
And where does the Pure Land come into?
Pure Land Buddhism and Zen Buddhism are two different traditions. For the Zen Buddhist, this is the Pure Land. Right here. And you know, even in Pure Land Buddhism, there is the story of Honen Shonen, the founder of the tradition, saying at his death, well, it's a little longer story, so let me tell you. There was the custom, maybe still is, of bringing an image of Amitabha Buddha to the bedside of the dying person and attaching a string from the hand of Amitabha to the dying person so that Amitabha may draw that dying person to the Pure Land from death. And he said, no, there's no need for that. I've been living in the Pure Land for the last many years. So there is that understanding also in Pure Land Buddhism. And by the way, let me take this opportunity to speak about reincarnation. Okay? Last Saturday, there was a talk about reincarnation. I am interested, as Confucius was, in the rectification of names. The CAR part of reincarnation refers to the body. We have such words as carnal, referring to body. For sure, there is no reincarnation. For sure. You have a singular body and face which never appeared before and will never appear again. But there is something to be said for rebirth. It's a very different term. And rebirth is something that is very mysterious. And I won't try to explain it because I don't understand it. But it is surely the reappearance in the bodily form of all of the, of many, might say, of the attributes which, say, I have inherited and I have cultivated appearing somewhere else, somehow. But it surely won't be with my face, and it won't be with my consciousness. For all the stories. This is my... Okay. Another question? Yes?
In the Zen tradition, how is meditation considered to prepare
commonly the lay people who attend Zen meetings and Zen retreats in Japan are older people who regard meditation as a way of preparing themselves to die. This is not explicit. In other words, the teacher will not devote a talk, generally, to this specific subject. Let me read Basui Zenji's letter, a quotation from this letter to a dying student. If you think of nothing, wish for nothing, want to understand nothing, cling to nothing, and only ask yourself, what is the true substance of the mind of this one who is now suffering? Ending your days like clouds fading in the sky, you will eventually be free from your painful bondage to endless change. My comment is, Basui is advising his student to persist quietly and calmly with his koan to the end, promising him liberation. And then I go on and ask, what happens when the clouds fade, when the white bird vanishes? We turn to etymology, that wise educator, and we find that the word senge in Japanese, the term used for the death of a Buddhist master, means to pass into transformation. Basui could speak of vanishing or fading. Death can also be considered a becoming. What does that become? Looking forward to finding out. Yes?
The topic of organ donation has been raised in previous Saturdays. Do you have any view on that?
No, I have no problem with organ donation.
Some have talked about the moment of death is particularly special and should not be disturbed. And you find that an issue?
Of course, the moment of death is special. It would be one of the changes that the individual goes through in the death process. I rather like the idea of contributing to someone else. I know that this is an issue, particularly with people in the Tibetan tradition. Somehow I can't get very exercised about it. Yes.
Reverend Siegel, the oncologist, told a story about a woman who received a transplanted organ. And after she received this, she had a dream about a young man that she'd never seen before. She also started craving beer and riding motorcycles.
Did you hear that? After she received this organ transplant, she found herself dreaming about the young man and craving beer and riding a motorcycle.
And then, and they turned, as they investigated who she got liver from, was this young man that she'd seen in her dreams, who liked beer and motorcycles. Would you like to comment on that?
What explanation can you share with us on the attraction of Western psychotherapists to Zen?
Well, Zen Buddhism is really a formulation of the perennial. You know, it is not something that was conjured up out of somebody's imagination. It comes from human experience. The Buddha's human experience and the human experiences of his successors. So that we can find Carl Jung, for example, writing in a way that echoes the Heart Sutra. It's extraordinary, really extraordinary. The psychotherapist who is not preoccupied with a particular mode of therapy is very open to all possibilities. And in Zen Buddhism, this would range from a simple way of quieting the mind so that one can sleep better and interact better, to a realization of why the sea is boiling hot and whether pigs have wings, answering the deepest questions. Walrus said to the carpenter. Although this interest is, I think, statistically probably not widespread, still, you do find therapists who are very intrigued by Zen practice, and indeed we have therapists in our own country.
Do you have personal thoughts on preparation for death from the Zen Buddhist point of view?
Preparation for death? Sure. You know, there are two fears involved here when you come right down to it. One is the fear of suffering that goes with the dying process, or can go with the dying process. One is the fear of not being. And fundamentally, really, it is the fear of not being that lies at the heart of all fear. All fear. So when I notice my own fears, and when I work with students who express fears, my effort is to get at the source of my own fears, or to encourage the student to get at the source of her or his fears, with the idea in the back of my mind that possibly the basis is that fundamental fear of not being, no matter what the terms of the fear folks who come to the meditation hall in Japan to prepare for death by doing zazen. So I think the best preparation for death is meditation practice of some kind. I'm not holding up Zen as the only way. So that one learns to walk through the valley of the shadow of death. We can't say that as Buddhists, we can't say we take comfort in the fact that thou art with us, because there isn't any thou up there. At least not in any personified way. So it's more of a challenge, really, than other paths. Walk right through that fear in your meditation, in your common practice, in fact. Taking that fear as the context of your practice, step by step, and you do come out the other side, free of fear. That is the preparation of that. Yes?
And what does the fear?
When there's no fear, then it is part of the living and dying process which we are all going through at this moment in this room. It's the nonce, so to speak, the interval in that living and dying process when there is transformation.
In Zen, is dying to yourself like the dark night of the soul?
Pardon?
In Zen, is dying to oneself is like the dark night of the soul?
No. Repeat the question, okay? Is in Zen, is dying to yourself like the dark night of the soul? No, the dark night of the soul is when the soul or the self is consumed by fear. When you die to yourself, it's just an extreme expression of forgetting yourself completely. So there's no dark night anymore. Yes?
What's the traditional way of preparing the body for final disposition, and how significant is that?
I think this is a cultural matter. It will differ from culture to culture. And I dare say that in the Zen tradition or its equivalent in Vietnam, Korea, and Japan, you will find different customs. I think there is no particular way, and in fact, it will differ from lay to priest and so on. Okay, are we about that? Thank you.
Thank you very much. It seems to me that you practice Zen very much, so 2 hours you're sitting here, you don't feel any tired. Okay, we have 1 more hour to go. You like to sit, they have us sitting here, so please come in and do that. Next speaker will be the Reverend Chin-Won, who is a graduate of UH with MA in religion. He's now doing a PhD in Buddhist studies for UC Berkeley in San Francisco. He's a fully ordained Buddhist monk, trained at Haeinsa Monastery in Korea. And a long time he was service in Haeinsa Temple. His topic will be chanting and explanation. Please welcome Reverend Jimmy.
I guess you are having a hard time repeating this goal, but could you imagine in Korea, Zen monastery, the Zen monks, also I had experience like that, the more than at least 10 hours we sit every day, 15 hours, even never lay down sometimes, and not only eating, but I had experience no eating, they can slowly a week and never lay down, no sleeping, and sleeping. Anyway, it's a good experience or kind of discipline. Just able to stretch out your hand and just help your blood circulation. Actually, I plan to show the memorial service and translate the traditional text. But this time is actually the offering to Buddha's time. We have a ceremony, daily service 3 times in the morning in Taiwan at 6, but in Korea always we get up the 3 o'clock in the morning. And normally we offer Buddha 10 to 11, but there we hold the offering ceremony, the 11th, and the evening ceremony, the 6th evening. So actually, a priest come to here and they offer Buddha and chanting, prayer and sing. But we occupy this room, so it's not just a demonstration. I really do the regular basis offering in short. So you can see one is as follows, and you can see how Korean tradition hold the ceremony like this. I have the first offering without translation and very short, only significant the part, and then I give some ritual service and translation. Maybe I guess you already have a translation part. So let me do the offering Buddha. Okay. mantra inviting to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. 작게 상세 손망부모 사생사장 원근 친척하면이 영가 사두량 내외 근계 원계 공산 공성물도주의 파 전유 경원성 살바야 화반야 일나무 서가 문해불 나무 서가 문해불 나무 씨야 본사 I pray for all your, health and prosperity, your well-being, and your also the whole family and community and peace of the world. And also, I pray that please give blessing to the all spirits, the livers and the children. So it's always three part. We pray for the community of the world and including your family or yourself, and then also the spirit and for death. So I already done, and after the offering to Buddha, then we also offer to the guardians. You see the paintings over there. They always protect all Buddhists, and they also help to your all business. So always we send heart to them. So turn to that side, and you can follow me or just listen. So I will recite heart in Korean. Now we have a New York Times to cover also. I just show some liberal parts. Your translation, page 8. Actually, memorial service includes three parts. First, invite the spirit, then the blessing, which means purifying their karma or their spirit, then offer the spiritual meals, dharma or not only dharma, but actually for the best, we also prepare flowers, fruits, or rice, or many things. Like someone who's still alive. So first we homage to Buddha.
For those of you who here are copies, General is referring to the pages. For those of you who are in the class, you can all have a copy. It should be, I hope. Those of you who are enrolled in the class, could you please put up your hands? And could somebody help distribute over on this side?
Actually, I translate
Those in the class, please put up your hands.
this text. It's written in Chinese, but we do in Korean pronunciation. So maybe Chinese and Japanese, you can understand it. It's written in Christian Chinese. Page 8, the middle part. Memorial service and offering to spirit. So, for the inviting spirit to offerings, I read the explicatory memorial. You can understand the past going on in the ceremony through this translation. I do a traditional way, so you can read that part. 개운 생사로왕 빙불초기가 명구에 파신장 법선이가도 사생육도 미진즉 사의 순한 반란삼도 사정득 여장층 성차생사 좋은 곳이 금이요심언 나음에 비빙불령한가 조승 사과세계 대원사 큰직 백인 영명 천열량화이 신영정나무 진봉청에서 일로왕모살마하단 고국일령불매 설치분명 대조량 영정봉금 훈련숙간 은연론서 중약구린 인연정 근수. So now page 8. So it's really the inviting the spirit. General remarks on invitation. I wrote down in the note, but anyway, the spirit of and the star, three star means name of the spirit, or Mr. or Mrs. 모령 생존 본무려 생존 십삼남주 모령 하늘은 생존도 아이고 우아은 현여시 청명명령 약야해서 군증없이 명령이요 기용미연승 구를 장곡하지 부차양단 수화묘공주모 Then let's skip the part and go to the page 10. And that is, as I told you, that is just a special preparation is needed, but anyway, its content is just purifying the old spirits, I mean the dead, purifying their karma and their mind. Then maybe they got enlightenment, then go to anywhere they want. So there are many exotic things here, so many mantras and even the mudras, but you just know what I'm doing. So I started the page 10, the touch the breath and leading to take a breath. I'm just leading the spirit to a special place. We prepare the water made by the incense and special water, and we covered by the screen, and we send to them as a breath chamber. 상내이빙 금력 검력 미탄보 미시진력 소청인도 일체윤금무주고헌 유정금중미계도 양계준 천명구. I just live through the mantras all master. Usually we recite repeat it 3 times. 정로지는 몸수직지 나자리자라 나자리자라 무라자리자라자라 만장 하나하나 훈바타 일종이 배군지망이 삼도 역사생 금일석계 분노연수연 의구화 복역지는 오 바다모 선미사모 가래후 자양기너노 사라가한다 오 수구지는 옴소소리수고 우고선과한. So here you see many mantras. There's mantra for chewing the popular practice is cleaning your mouth. The mantra that cleans and the mantra that washes your face. And after that, we need the crosses. So it's not the ordinary crosses. So we're providing miraculous crosses and mantra of that. And then page 12. Mantra giving crosses and mantra for dressing and mantra for advancing the dress. 나무 삼만자 무타나무 반자나 거루이제사 아수고 있는 몸방이 나가 파바가리니 사그지는 옴하으라 야지 삼바하 저의지는 옴 삼만다 삼나 now you purify all your body or spirit. So now the lead to the participate the offering ceremony. So coming from the best to the tender saints, that part. And so I do. 시간지나 몸예의에로 장하야 사바 법지윤만 내겁게 고방금색 주인 천물 현영감조원 체원정자면 나무 대성일로 왕무산 나무 대성일로 왕무산 나무 대성일로 왕무산 So now arrive the special altar to prepare all the food and the fruits or the flowers. And now, the our festival offerings, I do the most important part. Oh, already. Sorry. So I just in the 2 minutes. So then almost saying inviting the spirit. So I will skip all. During that time, you see the page 13. Shasti Avarokshya Swaradharani. This means Avarokshya Swara manifest. Maybe you already saw. She shows 10,000 hands. This means effectively help all people like that. So the Dharani is written in Chitta. It's just